Dr. Alan Wright floated in the dim light of the ancient alien chamber. Dust particles danced around his helmet as he carefully moved his scanner over the wall markings. After 3 weeks on Kepler 442c, this was the first intact room they had found. The rest of the city lay in ruins, crushed under its own weight thousands of years ago. Anything interesting? The voice of his research partner, Lisa Morales, crackled through his helmet speaker. Alan adjusted his position to get a better view of the strange symbols. Maybe. These look like emergency broadcasts, not regular writing. The dead planet Kepler 442c was the fourth extinct civilization site Alan had visited this year. Earth Alliance sent teams like his across the galaxy to study fallen alien societies. They hoped to learn why so many advanced species disappeared. The computer is having trouble with translation, Alan said, frowning at his device. But it seems urgent, like a warning. Lisa's voice came through again. We've seen warnings before, usually about resource problems or war. This feels different, Alan replied. He took pictures of every symbol on the wall, making sure his scanner captured all the details. Hours later, back on their small research ship orbiting the planet, Alan sat at his desk, surrounded by floating screens. Lisa entered with 2 cups of coffee, setting one beside him. "You missed dinner again," she said, looking at the screens. "Find anything?" Alan rubbed his tired eyes. "I think so. Look at this." He pulled up 2 images side by side. "This is from today, and this is from the Vega 6 site we visited last month." Lisa leaned closer. "They look similar." "More than similar," Alan said, excitement creeping into his voice. "The core message is nearly identical. Both civilizations, separated by millions of light years and thousands of years, left almost the same morning." He tapped more commands, and a 3rd image appeared. "And this is from the archives. The Centauri ruins from 50 years ago." Lisa's eyes widened. "That's the same pattern." Alan nodded. "I've checked 17 different extinct civilizations from our database. All had warning messages. I never noticed before because they were in different languages, written in different ways. But the core meaning is the same." "What are they warning about?" Lisa asked. Alan shook his head. "That's the problem. It's vague in all versions, something about visitors or watchers, something that comes before the end." Lisa sat down, her face serious. "Could be coincidence. Maybe all dying civilizations create myths about destroyers." "That's what I thought too." Alan pulled up another screen. "But look at this sequence. It appears in all versions of the warning. It's a mathematical pattern that doesn't vary." Numbers and symbols floated on the screen. Lisa studied them carefully. "Coordinates?" she asked. "I think so. That's my best guess," pointing to the same region of space in every warning. Lisa took a sip of her coffee. "If you're right, this is huge. It would mean all these different species encountered the same threat." Ellen nodded slowly. "And they all tried to warn others. But nobody listened in time." That night, Alan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about those warnings, left behind by beings who were now dust. All those different creatures, on different worlds, looking up at the stars with fear, all trying to send one last message before they vanished. He got up and went back to his workstation. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. Ellen pulled up the star map and entered the coordinates from the warnings. The computer calculated for a moment, then displayed a region of space far from any human outpost. There was nothing special there according to their records, just empty space near a dying star. But 17 extinct civilizations had pointed to that spot with their final words. Alan made a decision. He would take this to Earth Alliance Command, but he already knew what they would say. Without solid evidence, they would dismiss it as coincidence or misinterpretation. He would need more proof, and he knew exactly where to start looking. 3 months passed. Alan's small office at Earth Alliance headquarters was now covered with star maps and images from 17 different extinct civilizations. Lines of data filled his screens, and physical papers were spread across every surface. Lisa entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Alan and looked at his tired face. "When was the last time you slept?" she asked. Alan took a sip of coffee. "I dozed off for a few hours yesterday." "But on close, Lisa. Look at this." He pointed to a large screen showing a timeline. Dots represented each civilization they had studied, spread across 12 million years of history. None of these species ever met each other. They existed in different times, different parts of space. Some were peaceful, others warlike. Some lived underwater, others in desert caves. But they all left behind the same morning. Lisa nodded, and they all vanished shortly after sending it. Exactly. Alan stood up and walked to another screen. "I've worked with the linguistics team. We now have partial translations from all 17 warning messages." He tapped the screen, and words appeared in different alien languages with human translations beneath. They speak of watchers in the void, those who hunger for thought, the silent ones who come before silence falls. Different words, but same meaning. Lisa studied the translations. What about the coordinates? All the same. Alan pulled up a 3D star map. They all point to this region. It's empty now, but the star there is dying. It might have been different millions of years ago. Lisa was quiet for a moment. We need to take this to command again. With all this evidence, they have to listen now. Alan laughed without humor. I tried yesterday. General Phillips said my theory was interesting but speculative. He thinks these are just common myths that develop when civilizations face extinction. That's ridiculous, Lisa said. The mathematical sequence in the warnings is identical. I know. Alan rubbed his eyes. But without physical evidence, they won't approve an expedition to the coordinates. Later that afternoon, Alan and Lisa stood before the Earth Alliance command board. 5 serious faces looked back at them from behind a long table. General Phillips spoke first. "Dr. Wright, we've reviewed your findings. While the pattern is interesting, we cannot justify the resources for a deep space mission based on warnings from dead aliens." Alan tried to stay calm. "With respect, sir, 17 different species left the same morning. The odds of this being coincidence are virtually 0. A woman with gray hair leaned forward. "Dr. Wright, ancient civilizations often create similar myths. Floods, fire gods, end times. This could be the same phenomenon." "Admiral Chen," Alan replied, "these weren't myths. They were emergency broadcasts. Final messages sent just before these civilizations disappeared." General Phillips sighed. "Even if you're right, what do you expect to find at these coordinates? These events happened thousands, even millions of years ago." "Something is out there," Alan insisted. "Something that has been threatening advanced civilizations for millions of years. Don't you think we should know what it is before it finds us?" The room fell silent. Finally, Admiral Chen spoke. "The board will not approve this mission. Earth Alliance resources are stretched thin with the new colony developments. This matter is closed." As they left the meeting, Lisa saw the defeat in Alan's eyes. "We could go through private channels," she suggested quietly. "My family has connections in the Science Foundation. We might get funding for a small research vessel." Alan stopped walking and looked at her. "You'd risk your career on this?" Lisa nodded. 17 civilizations try to warn us, Alan. I think we should listen." Alan thought for a moment, then straightened his shoulders. "We need more people. Specialists who will understand what we might be facing. I know a linguist who specializes in theoretical alien communication," Lisa said. "Kate Powell. Brilliant but controversial." "Good start." Alan's face showed determination now. "I also know someone from my military days. Jack Barnes. He was discharged for questioning orders, but he's the best tactical mind I've ever met." Lisa smiled. "Looks like we're building a team." "Yes," Alan replied. looking out the window at the stars. And we're going to find out what those civilizations were trying to tell us, with or without Earth Alliance approval. 2 weeks later, Alan stood in a private docking bay on the edge of New Seattle's spaceport. Before him was an old research vessel, the Horizon. Its hull showed signs of repair, but the ship was solid and much larger than he had expected. "What do you think?" Lisa asked, standing beside him. "How did you get this?" Alan asked, still staring at the ship. Lisa smiled. "My uncle retired from the Science Foundation last year. He still has friends who owe him favors. The Horizon was headed for scrap. Now it's ours for an extended research mission." The sound of footsteps made them turn. A tall woman with short black hair approached, carrying a small travel case. "Dr. Kate Powell," she said, extending her hand. "Lisa told me about your discovery. If you're right, this could change everything we know about galactic history." Alan shook her hand. "Thank you for coming. We need someone who can understand communications beyond human language." Kate nodded. 17 species all sending the same warning. "I wouldn't miss this for anything." A gruff voice called from behind them. "This your idea of a proper ship, right?" Ellen turned to see Jack Barnes walking toward them. His military posture remained despite his civilian clothes. A scar ran along his jaw, and his eyes scanned everything with careful attention. "Hello, Jack," Alan said. "It's been a while." 4 years, Jack replied. "Not since you testified at my hearing. You were the only one who spoke up for me." "I told the truth," Alan said simply. "You were right about the colony situation. The command was wrong." Jack looked at the ship again. "So now we're chasing ghost stories from dead aliens." "Not ghost stories," Lisa corrected. "Warnings. Real warnings that no one else is taking seriously." Jack shrugged. "Either way, I've got nothing better to do. If something is out there hunting civilizations, I want to know about it." A young woman with dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail approached the group. She wiped her hands on a rag, leaving smudges of engine grease. "The stabilizers are fixed," she announced. "We should be good for long-range travel now." "Everyone," Lisa said, "this is Olivia Martinez, best engineer in the private sector. She's been getting the Horizon ready for our trip." Olivia nodded at the group. "Ship's old but reliable. I've updated the key systems and added some modifications of my own." The last member of their team arrived as they were touring the ship's interior. Peter Collins was younger than the others, with nervous energy and quick eyes. He carried several cases of equipment. "Sorry I'm late," he said, setting down his cases. "Had to sneak these out of the university lab. They're not exactly happy I'm taking a leave of absence." Helen introduced Peter to the others. "Dr. Collins is a quantum physicist. His theories about interdimensional physics might help us understand what we're looking for." Later, as the team gathered in what would be their mission room, Alan displayed the star charts and data he had collected. "The coordinates point here," he said, highlighting a region of space. "It will take us 3 weeks to reach it, even with the Horizon's engines pushing hard." "What exactly are we looking for when we get there?" Jack asked. "Anything unusual," Alan replied. "Energy readings, spatial anomalies, remnants of technology. Whatever left its mark on 17 different civilizations across 12 million years." Kate studied the translated warnings displayed on a screen. These references to those who hunger for thought and watchers in the void suggest entities that feed on consciousness somehow. Or it could be poetic language describing a natural phenomenon, Olivia suggested. A radiation burst that affects brain function could seem like something eating thoughts to less scientific cultures. Peter shook his head. "What if it's neither? What if we're dealing with something that exists partially outside our dimensional space?" The room fell silent as they considered this possibility. "Whatever it is," Alan said finally, "we leave tomorrow morning. Earth Alliance won't help us, and they won't listen. It's just us now." Lisa looked around at their small team. 5 people against something that may have wiped out entire civilizations. Jack laughed. "I've had worse odds." 2 weeks into their journey, the horizon pushed through the emptiness of deep space. This region was far from regular travel routes. No human ships had ventured this far in decades. In the ship's mission room, Kate worked at a console surrounded by floating screens. Each showed different pieces of the warnings they had collected. She looked up as Alan entered. "Any progress?" he asked. Kate pushed her hair back from her tired eyes. "Some. I've been comparing language patterns across all 17 warnings. There are phrases that appear in every one." She pointed to different sections on the screens. They all mentioned the void between spaces and those who feast on thought. But this part is most interesting. She pulled up another screen. They all specifically mentioned that these entities are drawn to advanced thinking and technology, like they're attracted to civilization at its peak. Ellen frowned. That fits the timeline. Each of these species disappeared when they were at their technological height. The ship's intercom crackled. "Everyone to the bridge," came Olivia's voice. "We found something." When Alan and Kate arrived, the others were already there. Through the main viewport, they could see a dark shape floating in space ahead of them. "What is it?" Alan asked. Jack brought up a magnified image on the screen. "Some kind of station or outpost. Not like anything in Earth Alliance records." "Is it from one of our 17 civilizations?" Lisa asked. Peter shook his head. "I don't think so. The design doesn't match any we've studied. It might be from a different species altogether." "Life signs?" Alan asked. "None that we can detect," Olivia replied. "Power readings are minimal. It seems abandoned, but not completely dead." Ellen looked at the strange structure. "Prepare a boarding team. This is the first physical evidence we found. There might be answers inside." Hours later, Alan, Jack, and Kate floated through the silent corridors of the alien station. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in strange markings. "These look like warnings," Kate said, scanning the symbols with her device, "similar to what we've seen before, but from a different language." Jack moved ahead carefully, his hand near his weapon. "This place feels wrong. Like a tomb." They made their way deeper into the station. Most rooms were empty, with only broken equipment remaining. Then they entered what appeared to be a central chamber. "Look at this," Alan said, shining his light on the walls. Every surface was covered with carved symbols and images. The images showed shadowy figures hovering over worlds, with smaller figures falling beneath them. Kate ran her scanner over the markings. "It's another warning. More detailed than the others. It describes entities that exist in what they call the space between spaces. They only become visible when they feed." "Feed on what?" Jack asked. "Consciousness," Kate replied. "Especially the kind generated by advanced civilizations. Creative thought, innovation, the energy of minds working together." Ellen moved to the center of the room where a small pedestal stood. On it was a dark cube, about the size of his hand. "What's that?" Jack asked, moving closer. "Some kind of data storage device," Alan guessed. He carefully picked it up. It might still be functional. Back on the horizon, Peter and Olivia worked to connect the alien data cube to their systems. After hours of careful adjustments, the main screen flickered to life. Strange images appeared. Dark, shifting shapes that seemed to bend the light around them. They'd moved in ways that hurt the eyes to follow. "What are we seeing?" Lisa asked. "I think these are recordings of the entities mentioned in the warnings," Peter said quietly. "The ones that hunt civilizations." The images showed worlds with bright points of light representing cities or technology. Then the shadow entities appeared, gathering around these points. Wherever they passed, the lights went out. "They're drawn to technological activity," Alan said, "like moths to flame." Kate pointed to symbols scrolling alongside the images. "According to this, they can't be seen in normal space except when feeding. They exist mainly in what this species called void space, maybe another dimension that overlaps with ours." "Can they be fought?" Jack asked. The final image on the screen showed a small ship fleeing from a darkened world, shadows trailing behind it. "This station," Alan said slowly. "It wasn't an outpost. It was a warning buoy, left by someone who escaped." The coordinates in the warnings now lay just 5 days ahead of them. 5 days later, the horizon reached the coordinates from the warnings. Through the main viewport, the crew saw only empty space with a distant dying star casting weak light. "I don't understand," Olivia said, checking her instruments. "There's nothing here." Alan studied the star maps. "Are we in the right location?" "Exactly where the warnings pointed," Lisa confirmed. "But there's nothing unusual showing on any scans." For 3 days, they ran every test they could think of. They sent out probes, scanned for energy readings, and looked for any sign of the entities described in the warnings. Nothing appeared. "Maybe we're too late," Jack suggested during a team meeting. "These warnings are from millions of years ago. Whatever was here could be gone." "Or we're too early," Peter added. "Maybe these entities appear on a cycle. We could be between visits." Kate shook her head. The warnings were specific. "This is where they come from. This is their home." "What if we can't see them because we're looking in the wrong way?" Alan asked suddenly. The data cube showed they exist mostly in another dimensional space that overlaps with ours. Peter's eyes widened. "I could modify our sensors to look for quantum fluctuations. If something is moving between dimensions, it might leave a trace." "Do it," Alan ordered. That night, as most of the crew slept, Peter worked on the ship's sensor array. He adjusted settings and wrote new detection programs. Finally, in the early morning hours, his modified sensors began to pick up unusual readings. "Alan, everyone," he called over the ship's comm. "You need to see this." The crew gathered on the bridge, still wiping sleep from their eyes. On the main screen, Peter displayed the new sensor readings. Instead of empty space, the area around them now showed strange energy patterns, like ripples in water. "What are we looking at?" Lisa asked. "Dimensional distortions," Peter explained. "Our normal sensors can't detect them, but they're everywhere around us. This area is like a thin spot between our dimension and another." As they watched, some of the ripples began to move, gathering together into larger patterns. "Are they reacting to us?" Jack asked. "I think so," Peter replied. "Our ship's systems might be attracting attention." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. Screens flashed and went dark, then came back on. A cold feeling spread through the bridge. "What's happening?" Lisa asked, her breath visible in the suddenly chilled air. "Something's affecting our systems," Olivia reported, checking the ship's diagnostics. "Power fluctuations throughout the ship." Alan felt a strange pressure in his head, like someone was watching him. From the corner of his eye, he thought he saw a dark shape move, but when he turned, nothing was there. "Did anyone else see that?" he asked. Kate nodded slowly. "I've been seeing shadows moving at the edge of my vision for the last hour. I thought I was just tired." "Me too," Jack admitted. "And I've been hearing whispers, words I can't quite make out." That night, the crew experienced strange dreams. Alan found himself floating in endless darkness filled with watching eyes. He tried to move away, but the eyes followed him. Voices whispered in languages he didn't understand, yet somehow he knew they were talking about him, studying him. He woke with a start to find Lisa shaking his shoulder. "Alan, wake up," she said urgently. Everyone had the same dream. The exact same dream. In the mission room, the crew looked at each other with tired, frightened eyes. "It wasn't just a dream," Kate said. "It was contact. They were studying us, learning about us." "Who?" Jack demanded. "The entities from the warnings." "Yes," Peter said quietly. "I think they're here. They've been here all along, watching from their dimension, and now they know we're looking for them." "We should leave," Jack said firmly. "Now, while we still can." Alan stared at the sensor readings, still showing the strange ripples around the ship. If we leave, we learn nothing. These things have destroyed entire civilizations. We need to understand them. Understanding won't help if we're dead, Jack argued. Before Alan could reply, the ship's systems began to malfunction again. The lights flickered more violently than before. The temperature dropped rapidly. And then, in the center of the room, a shadow began to form. It grew darker and more solid, taking on a shape that seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. The entity had decided to make direct contact. The shadow in the center of the room grew darker and more defined. It did not have a solid shape but shifted constantly, like smoke underwater. Everyone stood frozen, unable to move or speak. A strange voice filled their minds. It did not use words, but somehow they all understood. You seek us. You found us. Why? Alan tried to speak but couldn't form words. His thoughts answered instead. We found warnings about you. From many dead civilizations. The shadow pulsed, stretching toward Alan. The air grew colder. Yes, many have tried to warn. None have succeeded. The warnings are always found too late. Images flashed through everyone's minds. Planets with great cities, advanced technology, species of all kinds living and working together. Then darkness spreading over these worlds, the lights going out one by one as the shadows fed. What are you? Lisa's thoughts asked. We are the Watchers. We have existed since before time. We feed on thought, on ideas, on the energy created when minds reach their peak. The shadow expanded, filling more of the room. Computer screens showed static, and the ship's systems flickered on and off. You farm civilizations, Alan realized. You let them grow until they reach their peak. Then you harvest them. Yes, all things must eat. We consume the energy of thought. The more advanced, the more satisfying. Kate stepped forward despite her fear. Why show yourselves to us now? Why not just attack? The shadow seemed to consider her. Your species is interesting, different. You came looking for us. None have done this before. Humanity isn't on your menu, Jack said firmly. A sound like distant laughter filled their minds. All thinking species are our food. Yours is nearly ready. Your civilization approaches its peak. Soon your thoughts will be most delicious. Peter spoke up. How do you cross between dimensions? The physics shouldn't allow it. Your science is young. There are many ways to move between spaces. We exist in the void between realities. Alan fought to keep his thoughts clear. The 17 civilizations we studied. Did they try to fight you? Some did. It does not matter. None can fight what they cannot understand. None can kill what exists between dimensions. More images filled their minds. Great weapons firing at shadows that simply vanished and reappeared. Ships trying to escape but followed across space. Entire planets going dark as the Watchers fed. You're telling us this because you don't see us as a threat, Lisa realized. You are food, not threat, the entity confirmed. Your journey here has only shown us that humanity is ready. Your minds seek answers beyond your space. You are ripe for harvest. The shadow began to pulse faster. The ship's systems started to fail completely. Emergency lights came on, casting red light through the room. You won't take Earth, Alan said firmly. We'll warn them. We'll find a way to fight you. Many have tried. All have failed. Your warnings will come too late, just as the others did. Jack moved toward a control panel. We need to get out of here. Now. The entity's attention shifted. You cannot escape. We have tasted your thoughts. We will follow you home. Olivia's voice came over the emergency system. Engine room to bridge. Something's in the systems. I can't control the power. We're losing life support. Kate looked at the data screens, which were still functioning. It's in our computers. It's learning everything about Earth, about all human colonies. The shadow began to split into multiple forms. Each one moved toward a different crew member. Your species has spread across many worlds. Many minds thinking, creating, building. A feast waiting for us. Alan's mind raced. If the Watchers could track them back to Earth, humanity would have no warning, no chance to prepare. He needed to buy time. Wait, he thought clearly. Before you harvest humanity, don't you want to understand us better? We've studied 17 of your previous harvests. We might have insights about consciousness that would make us more satisfying. The shadows paused. They seemed to communicate with each other in ways the humans couldn't perceive. Speak then. Tell us what you know of consciousness. Tell us what makes your species special. Alan caught Lisa's eye. He needed to stall while the others found a way to escape or fight back. He began to explain human consciousness, human history, human creativity. Anything to keep the Watchers interested and distracted. While the shadows focused on Alan, Jack slowly moved toward the ship's emergency controls. While Alan kept the Watchers distracted with talk of human consciousness, Jack reached the emergency panel. He looked at Lisa, waiting for her signal. Lisa watched the shadow entities. They seemed fully focused on Alan's thoughts. She gave Jack a small nod. Jack slammed his hand on the emergency controls. Bright white lights flooded the room, designed to activate during system failures. The shadows twisted and pulled back as if in pain. They don't like the light, Olivia shouted through the comm system. The energy disrupts their form. Kate rushed to a console. The warnings from the dead civilizations. Some mentioned light energy at specific frequencies. It doesn't harm them, but it makes it harder for them to stay in our dimension. Keep the emergency lights on, Alan ordered. Olivia, can you get engine control back? Working on it, she replied. They're still in the computer system, but they're pulling back from the areas flooded with light. The shadows gathered in the corners of the room, away from the brightest lights. Their voice still filled the crew's minds, but it sounded weaker, more distant. This delay changes nothing. We will follow you. We will find your worlds. All will feed us. Peter studied the readings on his modified sensors. They're using our technology to hold their form in our dimension. If we shut down all systems, they might lose their connection to our space. We can't shut down life support in deep space, Lisa said. Jack looked at the shadows pulsing in the corners. We don't have to shut down everything. Just create a gap they can't cross. Understanding dawned on Alan's face. Olivia, can you create a rolling blackout through the ship? Shut down each section in sequence, then restart it after we pass through. It might work, Olivia replied. I'll need a few minutes to program it. Hurry, Alan said. I don't think our lights will hold them back much longer. The shadows were already adapting, stretching tendrils toward the crew despite the bright light. Lisa turned to Kate. The data cube from the station. Did it mention any weaknesses? Kate thought quickly, not directly. But there was something about how they perceive us. They track technological signatures and complex thought patterns. When civilizations reached their peak, they became more visible to the Watchers. Like a beacon, Alan said, our technology and collective consciousness act as a signal they can home in on. Jack's eyes widened. That's it. If they track advanced technology and complex thoughts, what if a civilization appeared to destroy itself? Would they lose interest? Or think the food source was gone? Lisa added. Before they could discuss further, the ship shuddered. The shadows were growing stronger, pushing against the light. Olivia, status on that rolling blackout. Alan called. Ready, she replied. But once I start, we'll have 30 seconds to move through each section before power returns. If you're caught between sections when power returns, they might trap you. Everyone to the door, Alan ordered. We moved together on Olivia's signal. The crew positioned themselves at the entrance to the corridor. Now, Olivia shouted. The lights in the corridor ahead went out completely. The emergency systems, life support, everything shut down. Cold darkness filled the space. Move, Jack urged. They rushed forward in the darkness, using handheld lights to find their way. Behind them, The shadows surged into the room they had just left, but seemed unable to follow into the completely powerless section. For the next 15 minutes, they raced through the ship, section by section. Each time, Olivia would cut all power ahead of them. They would rush through, and power would restore behind them. The shadows followed to the edge of each darkened section, but couldn't seem to cross the completely dead zones. Finally, they reached the engine room. Olivia quickly locked down the doors. It worked, Lisa said, breathing hard. They couldn't follow through the dead zones. Not for long, Peter warned, checking his sensors. They're learning, adapting. They're finding ways to cross using minimal energy signatures. We have maybe an hour before they figure it out. Then we need to get away from here fast, Jack said. Alan shook his head. It won't matter. They know about Earth now. They'll follow us or find their own way there. Then what do we do? Lisa asked. Alan looked at each of them. We need to take what we've learned back to Earth. The Watchers are drawn to civilizations at their peak technology. They track power signatures and advance thought patterns. So we warn Earth to what? Stop thinking. Shut down all technology. Jack asked. No, Alan said. We make them think we've already destroyed ourselves. 3 weeks later, the Horizon limped back to Earth. The ship had taken damage during their escape from the Watchers. Several systems were failing, and they had been forced to travel at reduced speed. As they approached Earth, Alan sent an urgent message to Earth Alliance Command, requesting an immediate meeting. This time, they weren't ignored. General Phillips and Admiral Chen sat across from the exhausted crew in a secure conference room. They had listened silently as Alan explained everything they had discovered. Let me understand, General Phillips said. You claim these entities, these Watchers, feed on advanced civilizations, and they're coming for Earth next. Yes, Alan replied. They've already started. Small signs are appearing. Power fluctuations, communication disruptions. The same patterns were reported in the final days of the 17 extinct civilizations we studied. Admiral Chen frowned. And your solution is to make them think we've destroyed ourselves. How could we possibly fake that? Lisa stepped forward. We studied all the records. The Watchers can't actually see us directly. They track energy patterns, technology usage, and the unique signature of advanced consciousness working together. If those signatures disappeared suddenly, they would think we were gone. You're asking us to shut down Earth's technology, General Phillips asked in disbelief. That's impossible. Not all of it, Peter explained. Just enough to change our signature. Make it look like a catastrophic collapse. A massive civil war or a technological plague that caused civilization to regress dramatically. Kate added, the 17 civilizations we studied all tried to fight the Watchers directly. That's why they failed. But if the Watchers think we've already fallen below the harvesting threshold, they'll move on to other targets. Admiral Chen looked thoughtful. A massive disinformation campaign, combined with a controlled technology shutdown. Yes, Alan said. We call it the Salvation Protocol. For the next 3 days, Earth's leaders debated the plan. Many refused to believe the threat was real until communication systems across the planet began to fail. Strange shadows were reported in major cities. People everywhere described the same nightmares of being watched by countless eyes. Finally, with evidence mounting, Earth Alliance implemented the Salvation Protocol. First, they spread false information through all channels about a catastrophic computer virus that was causing critical systems to fail worldwide. Then, on a coordinated schedule, they began shutting down power grids, communication networks, and transportation systems. To any observer from space, it would appear that human civilization was tearing itself apart. In secret bunkers around the world, small groups maintained minimal technology, carefully shielded to avoid detection. Most of humanity endured in a state of reduced technological capability, living with far less power and connectivity than they were used to. From the observation bunker under Old Denver, Alan and his team watched the readings from their special sensors. The strange energy patterns that indicated the Watcher's presence began to fade after 3 weeks of the technological blackout. "It's working," Lisa said, looking at the data. "They're losing interest." Jack watched the screens carefully. "They think we've destroyed ourselves, that we've fallen below their harvesting threshold." After 2 months, the signs of the Watchers had disappeared completely. They had moved on, looking for other, more advanced civilizations to feed on. In the central command bunker, Alan met with the world leaders who had supported the Salvation Protocol. "Phase 1 is complete," he told them. "The Watchers believe humanity has collapsed. Now we begin Phase 2. The rebuild," Admiral Chen said, "but differently this time." Alan nodded. "We can't go back to how things were. The Watchers will return eventually to check if we've recovered. We need to develop technology they can't detect. Build our civilization in ways they can't perceive." "Can we do that?" General Phillips asked. "The Watchers have weaknesses," Kate explained. "They can only perceive certain types of energy and thought patterns. If we rebuild using different technologies, different ways of connecting our minds and machines, we can advance without attracting their attention." "It won't be easy," Olivia added. "We'll need to completely reimagine how we power our world, how we communicate, how we travel between stars." "But it can be done," Peter said firmly. "Humanity can evolve beyond the Watcher's perception." The team looked out the window of the bunker at the darkened city beyond. In homes across the world, people were living with less technology, but with new purpose. They had survived the first contact with the Watchers. The 17 extinct civilizations had not died in vain. Their warnings,